Payday hits. You check the account, money's there. And for maybe 5 seconds, you feel okay. Then it's gone. Not the money, not yet. The feeling. Because you already know what happens next. Bills, subscriptions, that thing you forgot about, another thing you didn't budget for, and by the end of the month, you're back to counting days until the next deposit. Now here's what annoys me. Everyone acts like this is a knowledge problem. Like you don't know you should save more, invest earlier, build an emergency fund, stop wasting money on stupid stuff. You know. I know you know. But knowing doesn't fix it. Because if knowing fixed it, you'd have fixed it already. So let me show you something that actually matters. Not what you should do, you already have a list of shoulds longer than your arm. I'm talking about why the standard advice doesn't work, and why most people keep running the same loop. There's this thing rich people say, pay yourself first. You've heard it, everyone's heard it. The idea is, when you get paid, immediately move money into investments, before anything else, before bills, before debt, no exceptions. So if your paycheck is $5,000, you take $1,000 and invest it, first thing. And if you don't have enough left for rent, figure it out, no excuses. That's the advice. Here's the problem. You don't pay your mortgage, they take your house. You don't pay rent, you get evicted. You don't pay your credit card, they charge you 20% interest. So pay yourself first sounds smart until you try it and realize it assumes you have buffer. And most people don't. Not because they're bad with money, because the cost of everything is rising faster than income. So the advice doesn't fail because it's wrong, it fails because it ignores reality. Here's what actually works. And I'm not saying this is what you should do, I'm saying this is what prevents panic. First, pay what can't wait. Rent, mortgage, car payment, minimum payments on debt, utilities, groceries, the things that create consequences if you ignore them. This isn't boring, this is not getting evicted. You handle what has to be handled, then you see what's left. Second, set aside something. Not everything, something. $500, $200, $50, $10. Doesn't matter. Pick an amount that doesn't stress you. Because here's what all the aggressive advice gets wrong. They tell you to max out your 401k, invest 20% of your income, go hard or go home. And if you can't do that, the implication is you're failing. But that's not how behavior works. You set a target you can't hit, you don't hit it, you feel like you failed, you stop trying. So the aggressive target creates the opposite result. Start with something you can actually do, not something that sounds impressive, something sustainable. Because you're not trying to become someone who invests massive amounts, you're trying to become someone who invests. The amounts grow later, the identity forms now. And identity is built through repetition, not intensity. Third, put something toward a specific goal. After necessities, after setting aside your don't touch money, allocate something to a target. Maybe you're saving for a car, or a down payment, or paying down a loan. Doesn't matter what it is, what matters is it's specific. Because if you're just restricting spending with no visible benefit, it feels like punishment. But if you're restricting spending to fund something concrete, it feels like progress. Same action, different psychology. And the psychology matters more than the math. Fourth, spend what's left without guilt. After covering what can't wait, after setting aside something for later, after putting something toward a goal, whatever remains is yours. Spend it on convenience, fun, whatever, and don't apologize. Because if you've handled priorities, spending on yourself isn't weakness. Most advice treats enjoyment like a moral failure, like you should feel guilty for wanting anything beyond rent and rice. But you're not optimizing a spreadsheet, you're building a system you can maintain for years. And if the system doesn't include room for actually living, you won't maintain it. Now here's the part no one wants to say out loud. What if there's nothing left? What if, after bills, the balance is zero? What if you're not buying lattes and going out and the math still doesn't work? Then the problem isn't your spending, it's your income. Most advice obsesses over cutting expenses, cancel subscriptions, cook at home, stop buying coffee, and sure, those help to a point. But there's a floor, A point where you've cut everything you can cut without removing necessities. And once you hit that floor, expense cutting stops being the answer. So if you're at that floor, the question shifts. Not how do I spend less, how do I earn more? And I'm not going to tell you to start a side hustle or become an influencer or learn to code in your spare time. Not because those don't work, but because they're not the highest leverage move. The highest leverage move is simpler. Get a better job. Not someday, now, while you still have one. The best time to look for a job is when you're employed. Because when you have a job, you're not desperate. You can walk into an interview calm. You can negotiate. You can say no if the offer isn't good enough. And if you don't get it, you lose nothing. You already have a job. But if something better does show up, you take it. No loyalty, no guilt. Your company will lay you off when it's convenient for them. You leave when it's convenient for you. That's not cold, that's fair. Or you take the new offer and use it as leverage. You tell your current employer, I have an offer for 30% more, match it or I'm gone. They either match it or they don't. Either way, you win. But here's the real question. How much time have you actually spent looking? How many job postings did you review last month? How many applications did you send? How current is your resume? Most people spend more time looking at vacation ideas they can't afford than looking at job opportunities that could actually change their situation. And that's the pattern keeping them stuck. Not lack of information, lack of action on the thing that actually matters. Second thing that helps, write down your income and expenses. Not in your head, on paper, spreadsheet, whatever. Because when you see it written out, something becomes obvious. It's usually one category that's out of control, not 5. 1. Dining out, alcohol, shopping, subscriptions, something. And once you see which one is draining you, you can fix it. Not because someone told you it was a problem, because you discovered it yourself. And problems you discover are easier to fix than problems someone prescribes. Here's something I've noticed. Even millionaires overspend in 1 or 2 categories. I've seen people who wear $100,000 watches but $60 jeans. People who drive Lamborghinis but eat at McDonald's every week. People who spend $50,000 on vacations but get $20 haircuts. It's not about income level, it's human nature. Everyone has a category where spending feels worth it, and another where it feels pointless. And the category you overspend in reveals what you actually value. Not what you say you value, what you actually value. So write it down. See where your money goes. Find the category eating more than you thought. Then decide if that's where you want it to go. Not where someone else says it should go, where you want it to go. Because here's the truth about payday. It'll keep feeling like relief followed by stress until the pattern changes. And the pattern doesn't change through better advice. It changes through better awareness. Awareness of what you're actually doing, not what you think you're doing. Awareness of what's actually possible, not just what's prescribed. Awareness that the problem might not be your spending, it might be your income. And awareness that action today matters more than perfect planning tomorrow. So the question isn't what you should do on payday. The question is, are you willing to see what you're actually doing? Because once you see it, the pattern becomes optional. And optional patterns are the only ones you can change.